What's going on, everybody? Marcus back again here for a quick video. Just finished streaming Company Heroes 2, just started the Ardennes Assault. But what I wanted to chime in and talk about today was I was listening to the Luke Thomas live chat. Big MMA fan, and I love hearing Luke Thomas just talk and answer questions. And he had mentioned in a previous live chat that he had called Ben Shapiro a charlatan and didn't take him very seriously. And in this clip, he answers a question in his live chat regarding Ben Shapiro, and I just want to go break it down, just kind of a simple man's take on Ben Shapiro and how a lot of people feel about him and how you should feel about him, because this take is very accurate.
Do I really want to get into this one? Why don't you think Ben Shapiro is a good political commentator? On most occasions, when hearing him speak, he comes up with valid points. All right. Some people really objected to some of the political stuff last week, so I'll make this very brief. It's shocking to me that you could. Okay. He is a polemicist, right?
And for those of you who don't know, a polemicist is someone who engages in controversial debate.
Which in and of itself is not that big. It's not a problem. It's not by virtue of his occupation that you can't get anything from it. In many ways, some of the things that I do are polemical in nature. Many of the things I do are polemical in nature. So I sort of understand what he's up against all the time. But I'll just put it this way: pick any issue that you really care about. Campus activism, immigration, trade, taxation, the role of the security state, privacy, whatever. This is probably true for a lot of polemicists, and even in MMA, it's probably true about whether or not you should consult me. But he's just got nothing to say about any of them. Like, if I was really looking, and again, I'm not asking you to not like right-wing views. I have pointed out many people who had them. Some people mistakenly thought I said Nozick was not right-wing. He's not, but he provides the philosophical underpinnings of a libertarian worldview, which is, right adjacent, depending on one's perspective, I suppose. But point being is this: in any of those particular situations, I couldn't imagine going to him for information about it rather than somebody who might cohere with your worldview, but has direct experience with those things, who is readily available. You're getting it distilled through. If you want something distilled through a person, you would have to ask what about it that they're what act in the distillation are you, like, what value is there in the distillation? And if you're
I'm going to pause it right there real quick. This is a very, very important point that Luke is making, is that there's nothing Ben Shapiro can tell you that you can't learn easier or better from a subject matter expert. Ben Shapiro has an agenda. He's admitted it. I have a conservative agenda, but his agenda digs deeper than that. He not only wants to distill the facts and frame them in a notion or in a way that it's very difficult to even try and address it. And that's what a really good debater or arguer does. He paints a picture that makes it so difficult to argue against and distills it in such a manner which it's kind of hard to argue against. He's very skilled in that aspect, and I give him credit for being very skilled in that aspect, but being able to identify that is really important. And even Luke Thomas, who I don't consider to be a political expert, but just, a simple guy who's, MMA commentator, he sees that, and I want a lot more people to see that, and I want people to see that regular people see right through the bullshit.
somebody who grew up, before he was even at Harvard, he was writing stuff for like World Net Daily and Town Hall, totally bereft of any real value in these columns. Certainly, I'm not saying.
Another great point Luke just made here is that Ben Shapiro early in his career was writing for these ultra right-wing, hardcore conservative papers where he did the majority of his work that was extremely controversial, that he's had to kind of go back and backtrack against, that now that he's become more of a national figure, he has to disavow what he wrote in those columns because he's a national figure, and he can't have national appeal if he's saying, if he has things in his past that he said that were racist and immoral and controversial that we all know about.
He's not a bright guy. Obviously, his post-secondary education speaks to that fact. But then there's been no time in the real world spent trying to master any of these topics. Rather, what he does is simply reflect back in a very polemicized way things that you may already agree with. But if you really drill down into the details of what he's saying, no subject matter expert, A, I think a lot of them would probably disagree, and B, couldn't do a significantly better job of actually informing you of what that might be. So whenever you find someone who is a polemicist or is polemical in nature, that's okay, depending on the nature of it. So, like, let me give you an example of what I think would be a different case. Let's say, let me think. So, for example, I will read Task and Purpose.
So we'll go ahead and kind of cut the rest of the clip here. If you want to see the rest of the clip, you can just go right to the live chat episode 12. But I just wanted to give everyone a quick insight as to just what Ben Shapiro truly is and how he's truly viewed by the simple person. A lot of people get sucked into him because he is very... he can be very charming to a lot of people on the right. He seems like someone that can easily mold people, whereas people like me and people like Luke see right through the bullshit. So it's great to see Luke dunk on Ben Shapiro. He mentions later on that, all he does is really just dunk on undergrads. It's kind of a weak tactic. He mentions that later on in the clip, which I agree with. I don't think that dunking on undergrads makes you, Mr. Thug Life, right? He's just getting right-wing college kids to go, yeah, by dunking on the left-wing college kids, when at the end of the day he's just a polemicist. So we'll go ahead and cut that video here, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.